Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's episode. And today's episode is one you will definitely want to listen to if you've had challenges losing weight, keeping weight off, if weight loss is something that you have been struggling with, something that has been, on a journey for you. This episode is going to be um, one to listen to, maybe come back to, but hopefully something that you will get some really good information, things that you can really just apply to your life right away. And I'm going to be going into why the one thing that everyone tries is probably not going to be the thing that helps you achieve that lasting weight loss or that helps you feel really confident in your body long term, gets you that feeling of trust in your ability to sustain weight loss if that's something that you've been really, really yearning for. And what I'm going to explain today and go over today is what you can do instead. So let's dive right in. The first thing I'm going to talk about is the difference between food and eating. And oftentimes these topics are, these words, food and eating, are almost interchangeable in the conversation that we have about nutrition, about diet, about weight loss, but they're really not. And so the first thing I want you to think about is the fact that food is a substance and eating is an experience. So, what I mean by that is that food is a substance that provides our body's energy when it interacts with the chemistry of our body. So, we ingest food that has properties, right? So, it has properties, and what happens is that that food provides our body with energy, and that is what food is. Food at its core is completely neutral emotionally. It's neither good and it's neither bad. So every single food can be included in a diet, barring any kind of medical eliminations, the ability to eat really whatever you want. And again, like I said, unless you have a medical or clinical exemption for that reason why you can't eat certain foods, food is really just a substance that releases energy into the body so the energy can function. And it's not necessarily about the food that is the reason why some people have a difficult time losing weight, right? And this is a fact, and this is actually my story. So for so many years, I ever since I'm 16 years old, I think I was on a diet trying to lose weight. And I spent a lot of my time and brain power and emotional, emotional well-being just focusing on trying to hack different ways to eat food so that I could lose weight. I eliminated carbs, I eliminated fat. So depending on the fat at the time, that's really what I would do. So I wouldn't eat, I stopped eating pizza, I stopped eating ice cream, I stopped eating fried foods, I stopped eating carbs, I just went through so many different experiences of stopping to eat certain foods. I had a lot of my own beliefs about certain foods being good, certain foods being bad. Um, and at the end of the day, I'll tell you right now, I only ended up gaining more weight. Okay. Like it never really worked for me. And not only did I gain more weight, but I became really scared of certain foods. So I became scared of pizza. I became scared of pasta. I became scared of, um, I just became scared of food. And that fear of food also put me in the position to binge, right? It was like if I gave in to the fear, it was almost like I couldn't wrap my head around moving forward in the meal if I failed and gave in to some bad food. Okay, this was how I thought about food and eating for so many years. I was in a constant battle with it. I was in a constant push and pull. I didn't feel like I could collaborate with food at all. Every meal felt like a battleground, to be honest, especially at my worst, especially at the time in my life when I had the most difficult relationship with food, when I was in a really destructive cycle of my relationship with food and eating. And it was really because I didn't understand the difference between food and eating. That food is a substance, simply a substance, but eating is an experience that's motivated by other factors. Okay? So food is a vehicle. The way you eat food and the choices you make with food can impact your metabolism, which can then impact your body chemistry, which then impacts your weight. So it's less about the food itself that impacts your weight, but it's more about the way you eat food and the choices you make with the food that impact your weight. So it's more about understanding how to collaborate with food. It's not about controlling it, right? It doesn't matter if it's a food that is traditionally considered healthy, like chicken and vegetables, or a food that is considered a treat or a splurge, like cake, fried food, um, you know, Chinese food, dumplings, pizza, whatever it is. It's the way, like I said, it's the way you choose to eat these foods is more impactful for weight loss than the calories, the macros that the food itself provides. Okay, so food is a substance, and I'll repeat this over and over again, and eating is an experience. Our desire to eat food isn't usually motivated or triggered by the food itself. Our desire to eat, which is an experience, is typically motivated by something else. It's typically motivated by a habit. It can be motivated by an emotional experience that you're going through, it can be motivated by ritual. There's many different reasons why we will eat something, right? It can be motivated by stress. So many different motivations for why we're going to eat. The food itself is usually not the reason why we have this desire to eat. So when we talk about macros and calories and the value of those, and then the value of that, unless you're a performance athlete being monitored daily to craft a certain body composition, for most people, it's more important to focus on the nutritional value and the proportion of food you're putting into your body than the calories and macros as a means to lose weight. So what I mean by that is, unless you're a performance athlete where you're crafting a body for a certain performance, whether that's for sports, for a competition, for something that you're doing where you're crafting your body for a certain goal. Focusing on just macros or calories is not going to do anything for your body. For most people, it's more important to focus on the vitamins and the minerals, right? If you choose what you eat based on calories or macros alone, you might be missing out on the essential vitamins and minerals that actually rev up your metabolism and foundationally support weight loss. And I see this a lot with my clients who would spend a year or sometimes longer, but usually it takes about a year or so on a macro or calorie limit motivated food plan, right? So they come in, they've been on, a macro plan or a calorie limit plan for a while. And the way that they were making choices about their food and about what they would eat during their meals was based on calories, carbs, fats, and proteins. That's what a macronutrient is, right? So macros is it's a shortened version of the term macronutrient. And the macronutrients are protein, carbs, and fats. And something that many people are doing these days in order to lose weight is to focus heavily on those numbers, right? Each macronutrient has a certain amount of calories that it provides per gram. Okay. And so whereas protein and carbohydrates provide 4 calories per gram, fat provides 9 calories per gram. And you'll see that a lot of people just do a lot of math, adding up these macros with their calories and, with their body weight and, with their exercise and trying to hack this in order to lose weight. But the problem is that I have so many clients that after a year of doing that, they will initially maybe lose weight, but that's typically because of the shock the body is having with something new. But ultimately, they regain the weight back. They come to me with not only weight gain, but inflammation and skin and gut issues. And this is because managing calories and macros are not the most important long-term solution to weight loss or optimizing your metabolism. What is understanding your hunger cues. It's crafting meals that are high in quality macronutrients, but a lot of micronutrients, a lot of high nutritional value foods, vitamins, and minerals. And the actual literal number of macros doesn't really matter for most regular people unless, like I said before, you're a performance athlete or somebody who's trying to craft a body for a certain goal. So what is a long-term solution to truly shifting your mindset around food and eating? And what does that mean? And it's like, if you want to start to lose weight long term, how do you get your mindset around that? Right? What is a long-term solution to truly shifting your mindset around food and eating? What does that even mean? Right? So if you want to lose weight, you have to understand that sometimes food is just functional. And the choices that you make on what you eat for that particular meal or that day are influenced by nutritional value and just not being hungry anymore and just keeping the machine going, rather than fulfilling an emotional need or a sensual sensation. Right? So a question I often ask my clients is, when they find themselves in a situation where they are eating they feel like a little bit controlled by food, a question to ask is, what are you hoping this food is going to provide for you? Because if you're in a place where you're about to eat a certain food because you think it's going to provide for you an emotional experience or a sensual sensation and you're not actually hungry for it, that's one of the first steps that you could do to start to interrupt the behavior of emotional eating, is to just pause enough to say, what do I think this food is going to provide for me? And it is really important to get to that neutral, kind of sober place with your relationship to food and eating, where you can accept that sometimes food is just for function. It literally is just for function. It's not going to be exciting. It's not going to provide something emotionally satisfying. It's not going to provide something sensually satisfying. And it doesn't mean that it's, it doesn't mean that if you're choosing something that's functional and that's based in high nutrition, healthy, a socially accepted healthy meal. Okay, that's not being on a diet. That's saying to yourself, I have a goal of weight loss and I've educated myself on high nutritional value eating. And I also understand that if I want to lose weight, a large, a majority percentage of my eating sessions, of my meals per day, need to be high nutritional value. That's not a diet. That's just integrity and accountability to your own personal goal. Now, if you don't want to lose weight, go at it. Like, don't worry about high nutritional value. Eat whatever floats your boat or whatever, tickles your fancy in the moment. But if you actually want to lose weight, so this episode is for someone who is saying to themselves, I want to lose some weight. I have unwanted weight I want to lose. And the reason why I want to lose this weight is because I don't feel pressure from diet culture. I don't think it's going to make me happier. I just really believe that if I lose this weight, it's something that I really want, and I'm going to get more confidence in myself. I'm going to feel more alive. I'm going to feel more alive, confident to be self-expressed. If you know yourself that this is going to just make you feel more like you, not that you reject yourself or that you don't accept yourself as you are now, but it's just going to heighten your ability to be the quote unquote best you that you could be. If you feel that way, not that you're going to be more valid, right? It's just that you're just like, I think that I will show up more shiny in the world, then this is how you have to think about it. And this is how you have to think about eating and food. And it's not a diet. It's not a rule. It's not diet culture. So this doesn't mean that we count the calories or track the macros. It just means that we're aware and conscious that, again, the majority of our eating choices will be full of high nutritional value food. And we make choices on when to stop or continue eating, not based on a calorie limit, not based on a set calorie limit, but on our own connection with hunger cues and understanding our motivations for eating. And this, you'll start to notice, is not something that is like, it's not something where you're giving up on enjoying food, because you're going to notice over time that high nutritional value food can also be sensually and emotionally satisfying, especially when you start to see and feel the benefits that it has on your body and your mind. And it's so common for nutrition coaches and the wellness industry in general to label certain foods as good or bad and lean heavily into relying on macros and calories as a means of accountability. But the truth is that this only increases the beliefs that lead to having a toxic relationship with eating and a lack of trust in ourselves with food. So by focusing, and I talk about this so much, but when we put our attention external, outside of ourselves, and we get the safety that we're looking for, around food from numbers or some preset metric, and we're like, okay, if I stay within that, I'll be safe, right? If we outsource our sense of safety to that, it only makes us feel less safe. over time. Okay, it only leads us to having a toxic relationship with eating where we're scared of food. We don't know how to be spontaneous. We end up being way more controlled because anything that's outside of the ability to be controlled or be counted feels alien and scary. So when we shift to seeing food as it really is, which is really neutral, it allows us to appreciate the variety of foods, the spontaneity of eating, the flavors and experience that food and eating has to offer without the judgment on food or on ourselves. And we want to get to the place with our relationship to food and eating where food is never reduced to a transactional exchange, which is essentially what a macro plan and a calorie plan for weight loss is. I know that I had some clients and even some friends who were on these macro calorie or points motivated diets, and they weren't always trying to find high nutritional value meals. They were more interested in making sure that they were staying within their calorie limit. And sometimes that would mean that their days of eating were not even that balanced, right? They would just kind of count it up, and basically just count it up, and it didn't matter what the proportion of the nutrition ended up looking like. And it didn't matter if there were vitamins or minerals in there. They weren't thinking about food from that way. You're trying to get the highest quality nutrition. It was more just how could I get the macros in a way that's going to be a minimal risk to my weight. And that's not a place you want to be with food. That's not a place you want to be. And when we allow ourselves to acknowledge that certain foods can be a source of pleasure, nourishment, and connection with our inner desires, we can really unlock a deeper appreciation for the role that food plays in our lives. And for me specifically, after healing from my emotional eating past, I rediscovered being able to enjoy all foods again. And it was such an illuminating and revelatory experience to be able to feel really safe and feel really comfortable and trusting to eat anything that I wanted, to be able to show up to a dinner, to be able to show up to a party, to be able to go on vacation, go to a tasting menu, and say to myself, okay, regardless of what's here, I can walk away from this feeling confident. I might not always walk away from it feeling great physically, because sometimes when you do make choices that are not high nutritional value, you don't feel great physically, and that doesn't feel great. And to be honest, when you're healing from emotional eating, that can be triggering. And I've had that experience too, where I did feel safe eating everything, but it was a bit much and I felt gross and I had some negative thoughts come up. But that passes, right? That's part of the work also of healing from emotional eating, is being able to ride that wave. And for me, I don't have guilt, right? So that feeling of I feel gross that I just ate this doesn't immediately lead to, oh no, I feel guilty, I'm ashamed. I don't have that anymore. I just recognize that this feeling of grossness was a choice, was a result of some choices that I made, but in no way did I all of a sudden feel like that food was bad or that I was bad or that I had to feel guilty for any reason. And it doesn't take away from my ability to feel a joy with eating and feel completely neutral and safe around all foods. So when I talk about healing from emotional eating, what I truly want for you is to be able to fall in love with eating. And for me, that means trust. It's when you think about love in general, where does the deep love come from? It comes from a deep feeling of trust and safety, and that's what I really want for everyone, for you, especially if you're listening to this. And to truly fall in love with eating, the first thing that you need to do is you need to stop trying to control it. And you need to stop trying to control it by focusing on metrics, numbers, calorie limits, macro limits. You have to get to a place where you realize that fluidity is okay. You have to stop trying to control it, because when you're obsessively counting calories or tracking macros, you're only giving in to being constantly preoccupied with food. So not only are you counting and outsourcing the trust, but your brain is constantly thinking about food. You're thinking about it in this transactional way. And something else we know about love is that it can't be transactional. So if you really want to fall in love with eating, it can't be a transactional experience. It has to be a trusting experience. It has to have fluidity. It has to have room to, sometimes I feel, sometimes it's this and sometimes it's that. Because when you are in a transactional relationship with food and eating, and you are constantly preoccupied with food and numbers and counting and all that stuff, this obsession will prevent you from cultivating a healthy relationship with yourself and with eating. So it's not going to be just food, it's going to be yourself as well. And when we're too focused on calories or macros, we're actually neglecting the most critical aspects of our relationship with food. And what one of the most critical aspects of our relationship with food is that it gives us so much insight into our emotions, our patterns, our belief systems, and our mindset. So one of the things when you're healing from emotional eating and you are trying to develop a new relationship with food and eating so that you could sustain weight loss, one of the great things that could happen when you don't focus and outsource the safety and the accountability on calories and macros and all that stuff is that you start to really get in touch with yourself and that insight that it gives us into our emotions, patterns, belief systems, and mindset. And so once you reframe thinking about certain foods as good or bad and stop worrying about counting calories or tracking macros, you'll be able to dive deeper into your actual relationship with eating, but your actual relationship with yourself. You'll understand yourself so much better. You'll understand your needs. You'll understand your values, your desires. And this is why a relationship with eating is a relationship, and why spending time nurturing that relationship and understanding it and healing it is so valuable and so key. So you want to start to learn how to get to this place of feeling safe, feeling free, and really get yourself into this place of falling in love with eating. And that is all I have to say on this topic. I would love to hear your thoughts about this. I would love to hear your questions. Feel free to leave me a question in the bottom of the episode. And Don't forget to join us next week with another episode about emotional eating so you can start or continue losing weight and keep it off with sustainable strategies and lasting change. And if you enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who might benefit from this message. I also have lots of free resources on my website to help you on your journey to loving food and losing weight for good. Just go to bewellbyak.com. And until next time, I'm Alana, and thanks for listening to Emotional Eating Unwrapped.